looking back, looking forward, looking down, looking up, looking around. Come, join a journey of exploration to the distant past, to the frontiers of tomorrow, from the infinitely small to the infinitely large, the mysterious, the mundane. Come, let us travel to the horizons of knowledge. This program has been made possible thanks to a generous grant from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, the Vodafone Egypt Foundation, the OPEC Fund for International Development, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Ottoman Turks founded a great empire. And Egypt would become part of that empire when Sultan Selim conquered Egypt in 1517. Although there were glimpses of brilliance here and there, by and large, Egypt as an Ottoman province would sink into backwardness and obscurantism. In the meantime, Europe was going through a scientific revolution, and its technology was being applied in industry as well as in its military machine, and they started conquering the world. A clash was inevitable. And indeed, it was with the roar of a cannon and the clash of armies that Egypt would reawaken from its slumbers as it entered the 19th and 20th century. The 18th century is coming to a close. In 1789, the French Revolution begins. Bloody massacres would ensue. European wars would start. And a young man of unlimited ability, unlimited energy, and unlimited ambition would emerge. His name, Napoleon Bonaparte. A military genius, he would become a general at 25. He would lead armies and conquer vast territories in a few years. At age 29, convinced that time was not yet ripe for him to take over power in France, he decides to embark on an amazing adventure, the conquest of Egypt.
La campagne d'Égypte obéit d'abord à des raisons d'ordre géopolitique, qui est le contrôle de la route des Indes entre la France et la Grande-Bretagne. Donc l'objectif premier, c'est d'attaquer l'Angleterre en Inde en prenant le contrôle de l'Égypte. Au-delà, le projet d'expédition d'Égypte a une vision, je pourrais dire, d'universalisation de la Révolution française.
احنا هنا في باريس. احنا هنا في الانفاليد في باريس، حيث توجد مقبرة نابليون بونابرت. With over 35,000 men, 2,500 officers, carried in 55 warships and 300 transport ships, the expeditionary force also included, amazingly, over 150 scientists and 10 doctors. Napoleon eludes the British fleet and lands at Alexandria on the 1st of July, 1798. Napoleon makes short work of the Mamluk armies sent to confront him. They are powerless against his artillery, his superior technology, and military organization. But he has brought with him more than military equipment. He has brought printing presses and the best available science and technology. Here are some of the movable print letters that he brought. When in August 1798, Lord Nelson finally caught up with the French fleet, he sunk it in Aboukir Bay next to Alexandria. These letters went to the bottom, and we recovered them from there for our museum. Luckily, this was not the only printing press that Napoleon had brought with him. Arriving in Cairo in July 1798, he takes two houses, Beit el-Kashif and Beit el-Sinari, and on 22nd of August 1798, he establishes the first modern Academy of Science, the Institut d'Égypte. Modeled after the Institut de France, which has just been established in Paris to regroup the 5 academies of sciences, arts, and letters, the Institute in Egypt, after some tumultuous years, a few ups and downs, is still the Egyptian Academy of Science to this day. Beit el-Kashif has become the Sania School for Girls. The Beit el-Sinari is now being restored to relink with that ancient history. So it is in that house that Bonaparte and his scientists walked as they planned to study Egypt and to bring modern science to bear on its ancient mysteries. So, who were these scientists who came with Napoleon Bonaparte to Egypt, and what did they do? Some were eminent and known scientists, some were very young, like Napoleon himself, and would become eminent scientists. What concerns us here is that they produced a magnificent work, the Description de l'Égypte. A monumental work composed of 11 huge volumes such as this one, with over 3,000 lithographs in 950 pages, covering all aspects of Egypt, flora and fauna, the modern state, of course, modern in terms of the early 19th century, and all the monuments of Egypt. This was accompanied by 11 volumes of text in the first edition, 26 volumes of text in the second edition. Come, admire the beauty of the Description de l'Égypte. Back to Napoleon and his forces in Egypt. On receiving word from his brother in 1799 that the time for the political overthrow of the regime in France was ripe, Napoleon boards a small ship, eludes the British naval blockade, and makes his way to France, where he takes over power and becomes first consul. In a short while, he is master of France, dominates Europe, and names himself emperor. He pursues his own destiny until his downfall in 1815. In the meantime, the French army in Egypt is cut off from reinforcement and ultimately must reach agreement with the British to return to France. And part of that deal is the Rosetta Stone, which finds its way to the British Museum. With the withdrawal of the French, chaos engulfs Egypt. The Ottoman Sultan sends a brilliant Albanian, Muhammad Ali Pasha, as commander of an expeditionary force. Muhammad Ali takes over in Egypt in 1805. He confronts the forces that be in society, and ultimately, he massacres the Mamluks at the citadel on the 30th of March, 1811. Muhammad Ali is the undisputed ruler of Egypt. He sets about modernizing the country in one of the most ambitious programs ever attempted. He sends study missions to France, linking with Jomar. Rifa'at Tahtawi, Mahmoud al-Falaki, and Ali Mubarak are just a few of the names who would emerge as major reformers in Egypt in the 19th century. Rifa'at Tahtawi, born in 1801, he was sent in 1826 by Muhammad Ali to France, where he studied modern sciences as well as the French language. And upon his return to Egypt, he worked in the School of Medicine, and he developed the modern curricula of science and medicine in Arabic. He also produced the official journal, Al-Waqa'i al-Misriya, in Arabic instead of Turkish. He also started the first campaigns for the eradication of illiteracy, while at the same time, he encouraged the newly established Bulaq Press to issue new editions of all the marvels of the classical heritage of Arabic and Islamic civilization. He also produced the first cultural magazine in Egypt, known as Rawdat al-Madaris. Mahmoud Pasha al-Falaki was born in 1815, and like many other figures of that time, he traveled to France to study, and he studied astronomy, and hence his title Al-Falaki, which is Arabic for the astronomer. Muhammad Said Pasha gave him the responsibility of observing the eclipse of the sun, which he did successfully from Dunqula in Sudan. He also mapped the northern part of Egypt and developed the science of archaeological astronomy, by which we mean the study of astronomy the way the heavens were at the time of the pharaohs. He also did archaeology in studying Alexandria and the various remnants of the walls of the ancient city. He died in 1885. Ali Pasha Mubarak was a major figure in the modernization of Egypt. Under the Khedive Ismail, he was given responsibility to manage the municipality of Cairo and also to supervise the irrigation barrage on the Nile nearby. But undoubtedly, his greatest contribution was the creation of the National Library and Archives of Egypt. He also wrote a major work called Al-Khitat al-Tawfiqiyya, in which he described Cairo and other Egyptian cities. Born in 1823, he died in 1893. The printing presses, one of the many machines that were to be part of the great Bulaq press that transformed Egypt under the reign of Muhammad Ali in the 19th century. Speaking of the machines of the Bulaq press, this is the oldest machine we could find, and it dates from 1825. The letters would be on this side, the paper would come here, one page at a time, and the rollers would go up with the ink in this way, as you can see in this original piece that is still functional in our exhibit in the Library of Alexandria. But that machine was not the oldest machine, and we know that by the foundation stone. The foundation stone for the Bulaq press shows that it was founded in 1820. Actually, we have more to show from the old Bulaq press. These wooden letters are the oldest available letters for assembly for printing in Arabic that we could find in Egypt. And this is the first page of the first issue of the official journal of Egypt, dated 1828. Egyptian agriculture is transformed. Perennial irrigation and cotton are introduced. Medicine is modernized. The Qasr al-Aini is the first modern medical school and teaching hospital in the East. It is where Claude Bey worked with his Egyptian counterparts at establishing modern medicine and in Arabic. Engineering works are everywhere. And an arsenal is built. A powerful army and navy are established, and Egypt becomes a major military force. Soon, under the brilliant command of Ibrahim Pasha, son of Muhammad Ali, its armies have subdued Saudi Arabia, conquered the Levant, including Acre, that had successfully resisted Napoleon Bonaparte a few decades earlier. Egyptian armies were in Anatolia, a few hundred kilometers from Istanbul. But the European powers, worried by the meteoric rise of Egypt, would force Muhammad Ali to give up his territorial control over the Levant and keep only Egypt and the Sudan. But the modernizing push continued. Major works like the Suez Canal would be built with enormous sacrifice by the Egyptian people. The suffering of the Egyptian people contrasted with the opulence of the inaugural celebrations. Scientific societies flourished, including the Geographic Society established in 1875. Japan, forced out of its slumber by Commodore Perry's incursion into Tokyo Bay, comes to learn modernity in Egypt. Look at this image of the samurais visiting the pyramids. Despite setbacks and reversals, from the crushing of the Arabian Revolution to the invasion and occupation of Egypt by the British, the urge to modernize and learn continues unabated. Muhammad Abdu, Qasim Amin, Saad al-Zaghlul, Ahmad Lutfi al-Sayyid are all among the founders of modern Egypt. They helped bring about the founding of the Egyptian University in 1908, and the Institut d'Égypte, re-established in Alexandria as the Institut Égyptien, in 1857 returns to Cairo and assumes its rightful name in 1918. The 1919 revolution helps to bring democracy to Egypt, enshrined in the 1923 constitution. From there until mid-century, the Institute thrives with the distinguished work of Omar Tosun, Ali Ibrahim, Ali Musharrafa, Taha Hussein, and so many others. Egypt survives the Second World War, and in 1952, the Egyptian Revolution of July 23rd ushers in a new era. It is now the time of mass education. Schools are built everywhere. Universities are expanded. Research institutes are established. And all this follows the socialist model of state control of all these facilities. Soon, quantity overtakes quality. Problems gestate and would reappear decades later with a much weakened scientific research base and weakened educational institutions. But along with that expansion, a large number of talented Egyptians are sent to study abroad. A number of them decide to stay overseas, and gradually form a diaspora. Stellar names like Elbaz, Zuwail, Yaqub, and Al-Sayyid keep their ties to Egypt while continuing their research abroad. Indeed, Farouk Elbaz becomes science advisor to President Sadat.
كلية العلوم جامعة الإسكندرية كانت الزواج السعيد بالنسبة لي أنا علميا.
في علماء كويسين جدا في مصر، كلهم بيعملوا أبحاث كويسة جدا، والحكومة بتعضدهم، بتديهم تمويل، وحتى رجال الأعمال ابتدوا يعملوا تمويل في الموضوع ده.
من المهم جدا ان احنا ندي الشبان والشابات المصرية فرصة انهم يساهموا في العلم العالمي.
فاحنا نفسنا كمصريين لازم نرقى لمكانة مصر في العالم، لأن مصر راقية لوحدها بأرضها ونيلها بس، مش بينا، ولا ترقى أبدا بينا من الحالة اللي احنا فيها، فلازم احنا نرقى لمكانتها.
Meanwhile, some lesser-known scientific achievements were also taking place on Egyptian soil. Egyptian agricultural research helps produce some of the highest yields in the world. The new revolutions in biology and the emergent biotechnology would be mastered and harnessed in such places as the Agricultural Genetic Engineering Research Institute, Ageri.
احنا داخلين في أزمة للمياه، ومحتاجين نباتات تتحمل درجة حرارة أعلى مع التغير في المناخ كمان، ومحتاجين نباتات تأخذ مية أقل وتعطيني محصول عالي وبجودة عالية. فلا سبيل في ذلك إلا الهندسة الوراثية لو بتوفر لي هذا، ده شيء نافع مش شيء مضر.
تاني زي ما بقول، كعلم كساينس كل حاجة في الدنيا ممكنة. بمعنى إيه؟ بمعنى إن إحنا ممكن نعمل زي ما بنعمل هندسة لمبنى، زي ما بنعمل هندسة لكوبري، ممكن نعمل هندسة لنبات.
Centers of excellence in medicine continue, such as the clinic in Mansoura that Muhammad Ghunaim established. And Egypt, through its diaspora of talented Egyptians participating in the most prestigious scientific institutions in the world, is back on the world's stage. Farouk Elbaz helps to put a man on the moon in NASA. طب انتوا بقى في الناسا وقتها جالكم التصريح اتحركوا.
احنا كلنا، احنا ورواد الفضاء والمهندسين والناس اللي بيشتغلوا معانا واللي مساعدين، كلنا كنا شاعرين ان احنا بنحقق حلم الإنسانية. ده احنا سعداء جدا اللي اتحطينا في الموقف ده. الإنسان من يوم ما بص على القمر وشافه بيتعجب عليه ونفسه يشوفه، فاحنا وضعنا في هذا الوضع. فديا يعني احنا سعداء للغايه، وانتم محظوظين. اللي ياخد الوظيفه دي يبقى محظوظ، تشتغل 24 ساعه في اليوم واوعى تقول لا، وتعمل البدع. ما فيش حاجه تبقى غلط ابدا، لانك يا ابني ده انت بتحقق تاريخ البشريه. ده الشعور الشخصي الحقيقي.
Mustafa Sayyid receives the Medal of Science in Washington, D.C. Magdi Yaqub is knighted in Britain, and in Stockholm, as the century closes in 1999, Ahmad Zuwail receives the world's highest scientific honor, the Nobel Prize. The new 21st century was to see the ICT revolution. Information and communication technologies would explode, and the launch of a new scientific revolution was to begin. It was in this new century that Egypt would launch another great enterprise, to revive the ancient Library of Alexandria in the context of the third millennium. That's an exciting story, but that is a story for another day. I am Serageldin, and I thank you for having joined me in this episode of Horizons. العالم.